Mahomahopadhyaya Bhadreshta Swamis, the Mukanda Upanishad, Swaminarayan Bhashyam, with exposition and original Devangari text, compilation, translation, and notes by Acharya Paramvivekta Swami. On the occasion of Pramukh Swami Maharaj's centenary celebrations, this work is dedicated to Parabrahman Purushottama Swaminarayan, who revealed the knowledge of the Akshara Purushottama Darshana, Shastriji Maharaj, who gave the Darshana a concrete form and an appropriate name, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, who inspired the writing of the Swaminarayana Bhashyam, Mahant Swami Maharaj, who inspired the creation of this work. Introduction, a brief history of the Akshara Purushottama Darshanam. The Swaminarayana Bhashya is a comprehensive commentary on the Prasthanatrayi, that is, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahmasutras texts that form the cornerstone of the Vedanta philosophical tradition. This commentary is written according to the original Vedantic teachings of Parabrahman Purushottama Bhagavan Swaminarayana Narayan 1781 to 1830 CE, who founded the Swaminarayana Sampradaya in Gujarat, India. Just as the teachings of Shankara are known as the Advaita Darshana, those of Ramayana are known as the Vishishtadvaita Darshana, and those of Madhva are known as Dvaita Darshana. Swaminarayana's distinct teachings are known as the Akshara Purushottama Darshana. The teachings of the Akshara Purushottama Darshana are deeply rooted in the Vedas and canon of Hindu sacred texts, Shastras, which Bhagavan Swaminarayan regularly quoted in his teachings. Bhagavan Swaminarayan's ascetic disciples, sadhus, compiled his teachings, which were delivered in Gujarati, in a text known as the Vaknamrita. These teachings paved the way for a new commentary of the Prasthanatrayi. Thereafter, Bhamasvarupa Shastriji Maharaja Sri Yajnapurusadhasaji, 1865 to 1951 CE, gave these teachings the name Akshara Purushottama Darshana. He also established the Bokasadvasi Akshara Purushottama Swaminarayan Samstha, BAPS, an organization dedicated to spreading these teachings. Amidst countless hardships, Shastri Maharaja created 5 majestic stone mandirs that encompassed and enshrined the Akshara Purushottama Darshana and inspired countless to live by its teachings. Shastri Maharaja's successor, Brahmasvarupa Yogiji Maharaja Sri Jnanajivanad Saji, 1892 to 1971 CE, advanced his guru's efforts by building mandirs in Africa and England. Moreover, he encouraged sadhus and devotees to study Sanskrit to better understand the Akshara Purushottama Darshana in the context of traditional texts. He also encouraged them to author texts in various languages in order to explain the Darshana to a wider audience. To this end, he inspired them to not only study as traditional pundits, but also to further their scholarship such that they were able to acquaint all calibers of scholars with this knowledge. Brahmasvarupa Pramukh Swami Maharaj, 1920 to 2016 CE, succeeded Yogiji Maharaja. He established more than 1,000 mandirs around the world dedicated to Akshara Purushottama Darshana. In addition to these mandirs, he inspired the creation of distinguished Aksharadhama complexes in Delhi, Gandhinagar, and Robbinsville, USA. He also inspired Sadhu Bhadrasadasa to author the 5-volume Prasthanatrayi Swaminarayana Bhasya, which was dedicated on the 17th of December 2007 as part of the BAPS centennial celebrations. Pramukh Swami Maharaj was succeeded by Pragata Brahmasvarupa Mahant Swami Maharaj, 1933 to the present, who continues to nourish the Akshara Purushottama Darshana through his incessant travels and inspirational leadership. He continues to fulfill Pramukh Swami Maharaj's vision of building mandirs and establishing satsang centers throughout the world. Moreover, he inspires the creation of scholarly works such as Sadhu Bhadrasadasa's Swaminarayana Siddhanta Sudha and the present series of expositions on the Prasthana Swaminarayan Bhashyam, an overview of the Mundaka Upanishad. The Upanishads are widely known as the crown of Indian philosophy. Though there are many Upanishads, 10 among them are identified as principal. These 10 principal Upanishads are the Ishavasya, Kena, Katha, Prasna, Mundaka, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Aitareya, Chandogya, and Brihadaranyaka Upanishads. Classical and modern commentators consider Brahmavidya, the knowledge of Brahman, to be the primary focus of the Upanishads. Among the Upanishads, the Mundaka Upanishad directly addresses the nature and content of Brahmavidya, and as a result is regarded to be of great significance. The Mundaka Upanishad is found in the Atharva Veda, and is thus also known as the Atharvana Upanishad. It consists of 3 main sections, each identified as a Mundaka. Each Mundaka, in turn, possesses 2 subsections, called a Kanda. Thus, the Upanishad has a total of 6 Kandas, spanned over 3 Mundakas. In total, there are 64 aphorisms, mantras, within the Upanishad. The Mundaka Upanishad defines Brahmavidya as that by which Akshara and Purusottama are known. The Upanishad reveals much about these 2 divine entities. For this reason, it is considered to be an important Upanishad for the Akshara Purusottama Darshana. The preceding few paragraphs provide an overview of the Mundaka Upanishad according to the principles of the Akshara Purusottama Darshana. The first Kanda of the first Mundaka commences with a narration of how Brahmavidya was passed on through generations. In doing so, the Upanishad explains the glory of Brahmavidya as the superior all-encompassing knowledge. The narration ends by setting the scene of a dialogue between Angiras the teacher and Sanaka, an eminent householder. It is through this dialogue that the knowledge of the Upanishad is revealed. Sanaka asks Angiras, "By knowing what can one know all?" In reply, Angiras first explains that there are 2 types of knowledge, and that which is apara, inferior, and that which is para, superior. The first is superficial and theoretical, whereas the latter comprises of first-hand experiential knowledge. After briefly explaining aparavidya, the inferior knowledge, Angiras sets out to give a detailed description of paravidya, the superior knowledge. He commences his disquisition with a description of the various characteristics of the entity Akshara. He explains Akshara as intangible, divine, eternal, powerful, all-pervasive, subtle, unchanging, omniscient, and the cause of all beings in creation. He then gives 3 analogies to describe how Akshara causes creation, yet remains unchanging and impartial. Using the term Brahman synonymously with Akshara, he explains that Akshara causes creation according to Purusottama's wishes. In the second Kanda of the first Mundaka, Angiras explains the secret of transforming actions, karmas, which ordinarily result in the continual cycle of birth and death, into karma yoga. By performing karmas with the sole intent to please the eternally true Aksara Purusottama, karma yoga becomes a means for attaining liberation. Such karmas become the means to attain the eternal abode, Aksaradhanam. Angiras describes how a liberated self, Atman, attains the Aksaradhaman through the Archai path. On the contrary, he reveals that karmas that may seem virtuous but are performed with mundane or inferior incentives produce inferior results. Angiras then proceeds to describe the means to attain Brahmavidya. He identifies prerequisites for both the disciple receiving knowledge and the guru who bestows it. He imparts that in order to attain Brahmavidya, a disciple must develop detachment from the transient realms, become tranquil, possess self-discipline, and humbly surrender oneself to the guru. On the other hand, no ordinary guru is able to convey Brahmavidya. Angiras presents 3 qualities to identify the true guru. The guru must be Srotriyam Brahmanishtam. The guru must have realized the teachings within the Shastras. They must be the manifest form of Akshara Brahman, and they must be ever steadfast in Param Atman. The first Mundaka concludes by defining Brahmavidya as that by which Akshara and Purusottama are truly known. In the first Kanda of the second Mundaka, Angiras continues his elaboration of Brahmavidya by describing the nature and form of Purusottama. He defines Purusottama as eternal, divine, and superior to Akshara, who is superior to all else. Angiras also explains that Purushottama is the cause of creation. He pervades and controls all of creation, and is the Atman that resides within all. He also bestows the fruits of all actions, karmas, and is present within the hearts of all. Those who realize his presence become freed from ignorance in this very life. The second kanda of the second Mundaka further elaborates on Akshara Brahman. Among other things, it explains that Akshara Brahman also resides in the hearts of all. Angiras takes this opportunity to mention attributes of the various forms through which Akshara Brahman functions. Angiras advises Shankara to make attaining Akshara Brahman his goal, and offers an analogy of an archer to describe how to achieve it. He advises Sonaka to forsake all menial matters and realize Akshara Brahman as his Atman and the bridge means towards attaining Paramatman. Angiras summarizes that one attains Purushottama by meditating on and realizing Akshara Brahman. Upon such realization, one's menial desires become destroyed, one's doubts become shattered, and one's karmas become annihilated. The first kanda of the third Mundaka commences by presenting an analogy that represents the Atman and Akshara Brahman as the two birds residing in a tree, the body. They are accompanied by Purushottama. However, since the Atman is unaware of his divine presence, it remains overwhelmed with grief. The Atman is freed from this condition only when it comes to realize Purushottama. Angiras then proceeds to describe the elevated state of those who have realized Purushottama. Within his description, he identifies that Purushottama is realized through grace and meditation. The second kanda of the third Mundaka concludes the Upanishad by reasserting certain aspects of Brahma Vidya. Angiras explains that one who knows Akshara and worships Purushottama is freed from the cycle of birth and death and all desires in this life. He clarifies that in order to attain Purushottama, both grace and personal endeavor, Purushartha, are needed. He also adds that those who realize Purushottama in all things become Brahmarupa. They become like Akshara Brahman and attain the same bliss of Purushottama that is experienced in Akshara-Daman. The Mundaka Upanishad thus elaborates upon Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Akshara and Purushottama. In addition to describing the glory of Akshara and Purushottama, it presents the means to their realization. The Upanishad also encourages identifying the self with Akshara Brahman and offering supreme worship to Purushottama. It reveals that the fruits of such endeavor are to attain the divine bliss of Purushottama here on earth and to acquire his supreme abode. About Mahamadhopadhyaya Bhadrasha Swami, author of the Swaminarayan Bhashyam. Bhadrashta Swami is a renowned Sanskrit scholar born on the 12th of December 1966 in Maharashtra, India, a disciple of Bhagavan Swaminarayan. He took sannyasa diksha from his spiritual guru, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, in 1981. He has received multiple masters, acharya degrees in Samkhya, Yoga, Vedanta, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and the Purvamimasa Darshana. In 2005, he was awarded his doctoral degree for his work on Paramatprakya Varupa Yoga, a comparative analysis of Swaminarayan's Vakanamrita and the Bhagavad Gita. Thereafter, he was awarded a Doctor of Literature from Kavikulguru Kalidas Sanskrit University, KKSU, in 2010 for his contributions to Sanskrit literature, followed by the Mahamahopadhyaya Award in 2012 and the Darshana Kesari Award in October of 2013 from the Akhila Bharatiya Vidvat Parishad. His magnum opuses are 1. The Prasthanatrayi Swaminarayana Bhashyam, a comprehensive commentary on the 10 principal Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutras, according to the teachings of Bhagavan Swaminarayana, and 2. The Swaminarayana Siddhanta Sudha, a didactic treatise that offers a systematic and comprehensive exposition, justification, and defense of the Akshara Purushottama Darshana's theological and philosophical principles. Bhadrashta Swami was a member of the project committee of the Maharshi Sandipani Rashtriya Veda Vidya Pratishthan Ujjain, an institute governed by India's Ministry of Human Resource Development. He is currently head of the BAPS Swaminarayan Research Institute in Delhi, a professor of AARSH, the Akshardham Center for Applied Research in Social Harmony, and a senior advisor for the BAPS Swaminarayan Sanskrit Mahavidyalaya, which is in association with Somnath Sanskrit University, Veeraval, Gujarat. His current projects include surveying Indological research throughout the world. He has visited more than 81 universities in 18 countries and has engaged in conversation regarding current research in Sanskrit linguistics and history, Indian philosophy, and epistemology, Vedic literature, the Pashtanatrayi, comparative studies of religion, and the philosophy of religion. Notes on the exposition. The aim of this work is to produce a text that increases accessibility of the Swaminarayana Bhashya. It reproduces the Swaminarayana Bhashya with an English rendering of the mantra and its accompanying exposition. A transliterated rendering of the mantra is also provided to facilitate those unfamiliar with the Devanagari script. The exposition provided within this work keeps a broad readership in mind. Although it is based on elaborations provided in the Swaminarayana Bhashya, the exposition given does not offer a literal translation of the commentary. Instead, it provides a paraphrased, more accessible rendering of the discussions presented within the commentary. Extended elaborations are also provided as annotations included throughout the exposition. Although the exposition does follow the Swaminarayana Bhashya closely at times, it cannot substitute the depth of the original Sanskrit text. Close study of the original Sanskrit demonstrates the careful and meticulous language of the commentary and the extensive familiarity with Vedanta discussions, darshanic principles, and Sanskrit grammar that are requisite to fully comprehend the nuances of the work. To explicate all of the text features is beyond the scope of this work. On a similar note, grammatically involved or specialized discussions that would require extensive or intricate elucidation are consciously summarized or omitted in this work to preserve its readability for a larger audience. Nevertheless, important discussions are thoroughly explained when appropriate. Such elaborations mostly either begin with note or are provided in a footnote so that the reader may distinguish such annotations from the discussions found within the commentary. Despite such attempts, there are unmarked annotations within the expositions itself, allowing for a more fluid reading of the work. Footnotes also include many of the references found within the body of the commentary to further the readability of the text. A mantra is normally composed of one or more sentences. A commentary traditionally serves to elaborate each of these sentences, detailing each word as necessary. This elaboration generally reiterates the same sentence while introducing synonyms, adjectives, or adjective phrases clarifying each term and its implications. This method often produces lengthy Sanskrit sentences, sometimes extending to several pages. In an attempt to maintain this style and the integrity of the work, the exposition provided often includes somewhat lengthy sentences. Nevertheless, when a sentence becomes too difficult to follow, it is divided and rearranged into more manageable parts. Titles have also been added to the exposition to further help the reader follow the topic being discussed. This exposition is a guide to understanding not only the commentator's elaborations, but also the motivations underlying his interpretations. In addition to familiarizing the methods of a traditional commentary, this work provides insights to understanding many of the nuances of the Swaminarayana Bhashya. In doing so, it is an attempt to provide students and academics with a foundation that facilitates a close reading of the original Sanskrit text. Conventions. Throughout the work, Sanskrit terms have been romanized using the International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration, IAST, scheme. Sanskrit terms other than proper nouns have been italicized. Although some terms are included within English dictionaries, italicization of these terms is maintained to avoid confusion that may result from inaccurately confining their meanings to only those provided within these dictionaries. For instance, the word karma is commonly used and well known. The dictionary meaning presents karma as the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence, viewed as deciding their fate in future existences. Other meanings, such as a deed or an action itself, which are in certain contexts the more commonly intended meaning, are not mentioned. Also, throughout this work, Sanskrit terms have been used in their root form, unless otherwise specified. For example, the neuter Atman, and not its nominative case Atma, is used in its undeclined form. Where plural or possessive forms are required, the root form is conjugated as if it is an English noun by adjoining s or apostrophe s, and other such suffixes. Examples of plural and possessive forms of Atman include Atmans and Atmans. The Mundaka Upanishad. Note, the commentator Bhashyakara Mahamahopadhyaya Sadhu Bhadreshtas commences the commentary Bhashya in the traditional manner by paying reverence to and requesting the blessings of Parabrahman, Bhagavan Swaminarayan, and his guru Pramukh Swami Maharaja, Pramukh Swami Maharaj. Within the tradition, Sampradaya, Bhagavan Swaminarayan is identified as the founder of the Akshara Purusattama Darshana, the Vedanta school of thought that upholds the doctrine of Akshara Purusattama, the Akshara Purusattama Darshana Siddhanta. The commentator also pays special reverence to his god and guru in terms of the entities revealed within the teachings of Mundaka Upanishad itself. Upon being showered by your compassion, the intellect radiates with politeness and adeptness, and words become simple and clear. It is true that even the ignorant can become well versed in the Shastras. I reflect on Akshara and Purusattama, by whom the Mundaka, the revealer of Brahmavidya, is adorned. Akshara Brahman is all-knowing, all-pervading, and the cause of all. Paramatman is Parabrahman and superior even to that superior Akshara. Swaminarayan is he who is expressed here as Purusha. He is superior to even the superior. Akshara Brahman is manifest through the Gunatita succession. Note, the commentator presents a summary of the Mundaka Upanishad in the above 3 verses. The first verse identifies Brahmavidya as the central theme of the Upanishad. What is Brahmavidya? According to the mantra Yinaksaram Parusam Veda Satyam Pravakatam Tattvato Brahmavidyam, Brahmavidya is revealed as the knowledge of Akshara and Purusattama. Thereafter, the first half of the second verse discusses Akshara, the preceding subject of discussion in the Upanishad. This Akshara is also referred to as Brahman, who is mentioned in Tapasasyate Brahma and Tadadaksharam Brahma. The verse then offers several qualifiers to describe Akshara. He is described as Sarvanja, meaning omniscient, and Sarvaga, as all-pervasive. Mundaka mantras Ya Sarvanja Sarvaid and Tasmadatad Brahma Nama Rupamanam Sajagate respectively describe Akshara in this manner. The second half of the verse then describes Paramatman, who is Parabrahman and superior to the superior Akshara. Here the commentator again uses terms identical to those found in the Upanishad. The terms mentioned, the Kyakshara Pratapara, reflects the Upanishadic revelation found in Mundaka Upanishad 2.1.2. Thereafter, in the third verse, the commentator identifies Akshara Brahman and Parabrahman. According to the doctrine of the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, he identifies Swaminarayan as the supreme entity identified by Purusha in the Upanishad. He then identifies Akshara Brahman as Gunatitananda Swami and the subsequent Gunatita gurus that precede him. For the enlightenment of the highest wisdom, my utmost obeisance to Pramukh Swami Maharaj, this manifest form of Narayana, the manifest Akshara, and the manifest Guru. Note, here the commentator plays on the meaning of the word Narayana Svarupa. Within the Narayana Sampradaya, the Guru is understood as the manifest form of Akshara, and through whom Parabrahman continues to remain manifest. Narayana is a term often used to refer to Parabrahman. The compound term Narayana Svarupa, used in the above verse, is formed when Narayana is joined with Svarupa, which means the form of. The compound refers to the manifest form of Parabrahman. Narayana Svarupadasa is also the name given to Pramukh Swami Maharaj, the guru of the commentator at the time of authoring the commentary. As the guru, he is also identified as the manifest form of Parabrahman. Thus, the commentator uses Narayana Svarupa to acknowledge his guru, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, as the manifest guru, the manifest Akshara, and the manifest form of Narayana. The first Mundaka, the first Kanda, mantra. Brahma was the first of the deities, devas, to come into existence. He is the creator and protector of the world. He conveyed Brahmavidya, the foundation of all knowledge, to his eldest son, Atharva. Note, the Mundaka Upanishad is part of the Atharva Veda and is regarded as one of the 10 principal Upanishads. The principal subject of revelation of the Mundaka Upanishad is Brahmavidya, a narrative on the transmission of Brahmavidya. The Upanishad begins with a narration of how Brahmavidya was conveyed. Brahma, who came forth from the navel of Vairajapurusha, is identified as the first among the deities. According to Parabrahman's wishes, he is the creator and protector of the world. Brahma revealed Brahmavidya to his eldest son, Atharvan, who was an apt pupil. The forthcoming 2 mantras, Mundaka Upanishad 1.1, 2-3, will continue to narrate how this knowledge was passed down from one generation to the next, and in doing so will provide its history of transmission. The semantics of Brahmavidya. The knowledge being imparted is entitled Brahmavidya, a syntactic compound formed from the words Brahman and Vidya. Brahman simultaneously refers to both Akshara Brahman and Para Brahman. Its dual reference will be explained later by the Upanishad itself and is substantiated by revelations in other sacred texts. Vidya means knowledge. Thus, Brahmavidya is rendered as the knowledge of both Akshara Brahman and Para Brahman. This knowledge is otherwise known as the Akshara Purusattama Siddhanta, the all-encompassing knowledge. Here, Brahmavidya is qualified by the adjective Shavavidya Pratishtam, meaning that in which all knowledge is contained. It is identified as the knowledge upon which the fruit of knowing all things is attained. In other words, the knowledge of Akshara Brahman and Para Brahman is all-encompassing. Upon realizing it, one attains all that is worthy of attaining. The Upanishad therefore advocates that upon realizing Brahmavidya, nothing else remains to be known. Atharvam revealed to Angira the Brahmavidya that Brahma had conveyed to Atharvan. Angira then imparted it to Satyavaha of the Bharadvaja lineage. Satyavaha thereafter bestowed that supreme knowledge to Angiras. Exposition. Continuing to narrate the transmission of this sacred knowledge, the Upanishad explains that Atharvan taught Brahmavidya, which Brahma had revealed to him, to his disciple Angira. Angira then imparted it to Satyavaha of the Bharadvaja lineage, who then in turn conveyed it to his disciple Angiras. A class of its own. The Upanishad further qualifies Brahmavidya with the adjective paravara. The compound paravara can be deconstructed in 2 ways. First, it qualifies Brahmavidya as knowledge that is superior, para, to other inferior, avara vidyas of the world. Although there are many types of knowledge in the world, for all of them the primary focus is to attain worldly happiness. Therefore, no matter how renowned, respected, or significant these other vidyas seem, they are all still inferior to Brahmavidya. Alternatively, Paravara describes Brahmavidya as that which a junior, avara, disciple learns from a senior, para teacher, acharya. Shanaka, the founder of a great yajna hall, approached Angiras in a traditional manner and asked, "By knowing what can one know all of this?" Exposition. The Upanishad continues its narrative by laying the foundation on which it will reveal the content of Brahma Vidya, a unique tradition. Shanaka, the son of Sunaka, was wealthy. His great sacrificial hall, Yajnasala, attested his wealth. One day, Shanaka approached Angiras in a traditional manner. He approached as a humble disciple presents himself to a guru. This manner is further elaborated in the text in other Upanishads and within the Bhagavad Gita. Among other things, it consists of a gesture that expresses a disciple's humility and readiness to do what a teacher instructs. It is regarded as essential for attaining any knowledge, let alone Brahma Vidya. Although this manner is specifically mentioned here, it is understood to have been assumed in each prior instance of transmission of this knowledge. It was not previously mentioned because the focus of the narrative was on emphasizing the succession of the knowledge. It is only now mentioned since the text will soon commence revealing the context of Brahma Vidya. Note, there are several other noteworthy elements that can be drawn from this mantra. First, it is apparent by the narrative that Brahma Vidya is not restricted only to ascetics or sannyasins. Despite being a householder, Shanaka is described unreservedly as being in search of it. Additionally, Brahma Vidya is shown to be cherished more than worldly prosperity. Even though Shanaka is described as affluent, he is also portrayed as being aware that his wealth is not the ultimate attainment. Despite possessing immense wealth, there was something else that he sought to attain. The Upanishad also attests to Shanaka's modesty. Being able to humbly approach Angiras as a young disciple would approach a guru, Shanaka is portrayed as willing to put aside his pride to acquire Brahma Vidya. Shanaka's inquiry. Shanaka asks Angiras, by knowing what can one know all of this? This question may be interpreted in two ways. First, it may be read as asking, by knowing what can all things, both animate and inanimate, that can be known in this universe be known. It may also read, by knowing what can the vast ocean of knowledge regarding ultimate liberation found in the Shastras be completely realized. When further elaborated, the question may be understood as asking, as mortals we have a limited lifespan, and the amount of knowledge is immense and difficult to comprehend. An entire lifetime would be insufficient to acquire just the renowned Vidyas. Therefore tell me the essence of all Vidyas, which grants the attainments of all other Vidyas, and which is attainable in this lifespan. Shanaka's question expresses not only his desire to realize the universe he finds himself in, but also a plea to acquire the knowledge needed for attaining liberation, the ultimate attainment. His question also suggests that he does not wish to squander away the precious time he has. This mention of a knowledge that encompasses all knowledge is also found within other Upanishads. He said to him, the knowers of Brahman, Brahmajnanis, explain that there are two Vidyas worth knowing, para and apara. Exposition, the two types of knowledge. Upon being asked by Shanaka, Angiras reveals what he himself had learnt from his guru. He states, the knowers of Brahman, Brahmajnani Munis, say that there are two Vidyas worth acquiring. One is para, whereas the other is apara. The superior knowledge, Paravidya, is identified as superior because it is acquired first-hand and consists of the liberating knowledge of Akshara Purushottama. This knowledge originates from the teachings of the Guru and from sacred texts taught by the Guru. The inferior knowledge, Aparavidya, on the other hand, is understood as inferior since it is not knowledge that is experienced first-hand and does not directly lead to liberation. Of the two, Apara comprises of the Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, phonetics, ritual, grammar, etymology, metrics, and astrology, and Para is that by which Akshara is known. Exposition. The Upanishad proceeds to describe these two Vidyas. It begins by elaborating Aparavidya. Although Paravidya is mentioned first in the mantra, it is discussed later in the commentary, since it is the primary focus of the Upanishad and the subject of extensive exposition. Moreover, Aparavidya provides supporting information for the explanation of Paravidya. Since Aparavidya is understood as the unrealized knowledge of the Shastras, whereas Paravidya consists of realized knowledge, it is only appropriate to provide supporting or rather incomplete knowledge first. Aparavidya. Aparavidya consists of the knowledge of the four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda, and the six Vedangas, Shiksha, phonetics, Kalpa, ritual studies, Vyakarana, grammar, Nirukta, etymology, Chandas, prosody, and Jyotisha, astrology. The six Vedangas provide supporting knowledge to help comprehend the Vedas. Of these Vedangas, Shiksha refers to phonetics. It explains the articulation and pronunciation of Vedic vowels and consonants. A more thorough exposition is found in the Taittiriya Upanishad, which describes Shiksha as detailing the significance, expression, and function of Varna, letters, Svara, the accent of tone. There are three types of Svara: Udatta, Anudatta, and Sfarita. Matra, the measure of time of pronunciation. There are three types of matra: Prashva, Dirgha, and Pluta. Bala, the effort or stress expressed in pronunciation. There are two types of bala: Braya Prayatna and Abhyantara Prayatna. Sama, modulation, and Santana, continuing or conjunction of letters. Panini Shiksha, Narada Shiksha, and Vyasa Shiksha are all examples of works on Shiksha. Kalpa, ritual studies, explains among others the rules, sequence, and criteria of ritual practices described in the Vedas. The Kalpa Sutras are categorized as Srauta Sutra, Gurhya Sutra, Dharma Sutra, Sulva Sutra, and others. These are found separately under the names of Sadasvyalayana, Katyayana, Bodhayana, Latyayana, Vaitayana, and others according to the Vedas they are associated with. Vyakarana, grammar, gives detailed explanation of words and their meanings by analyzing root words along with their prefixes and suffixes. Treatises established by Panini and Sakatayana are examples of Vedic grammatical expositions. Nirukta, etymology, provides a glossary of terms used within the Vedas, along with their etymological analysis. Yaska's Niruta and others are well known. Chandas consists of a detailed study of prosody and rhythmic structure. It details the specific length of syllables and considers the euphony of verses. It presents explanations of meters such as Gayatri, Usnik, Anushtub, Brati, Pankti, Trishtub, Jagati, and others used in the Vedas. These meters are identified as Chanda. Additionally, the Chandas also explain the manner in which Vedic meters should be recited. Jyotisa, astrology, informs when Vedic ceremonies should take place. Teachers, acharyas, including Lagada and others, provide extensive elaborations on Jyotisha and their works. The Vedas and its supporting literature is described as Aparavidya. However, the Upanishads, which describe the liberating knowledge of Akshara Brahman and Parabrahman, also constitute the Vedas. At which glance this seems to result in a dilemma. How can knowledge that leads towards liberation be inferior? The commentary of the Mundaka Upanishad resolves the issue by revealing the sense in which the Vedas are identified as Aparavidya. It provides a distinction between the mere study of the Vedas and the realization of the revelations contained within them. It states that if one does not realize and imbibe the knowledge of the Vedas, if one does not surrender to a realized Brahmasvarupya Guru, if one's dedication for liberation is lacking, if one is unable to group the true meaning of what is revealed, if one lingers only on the recitation of the words of the mantras, or if one remains preoccupied only by the grammatical meanings of the words, then the Vedas are rendered as aparavidya to them. However, when Vedic knowledge becomes realized through the teachings of the Guru, it becomes paravidya and leads to final liberation. By identifying Vedic knowledge as apara, the Vedas are not demeaned. The identification is made to dissuade one from engaging in only a grammatical or superficial analysis of the Vedas. Instead, it seeks to inspire spiritual aspirants to approach a guru and emphasizes the significance of truly realizing and imbibing the knowledge contained within the Vedas. Paravidya. The Upanishad then proceeds to describe Paravidya, the primary focus of its preceding discussion. It identifies Paravidya with Brahmavidya, which it later defines as Yanaksaram Purusham Veda Satyam provakatam tattvato brahmavidyam, Mukunda Upanishad 1-2-13, the knowledge of both Akshara and Purusatama. The Upanishad commences its elaboration of Paravidya by revealing the nature and form of Akshara. The introduction provided in the current mantra reveals Paravidya as that knowledge is obtained from the association of the Brahmasvarupa Guru, and by which that Akshara is realized. Note the mantra's use of the demonstrative adjective that before Akshara. It is used as a prelude to the description of Akshara that will be provided in the preceding mantra, Mundaka Upanishad 1-1-6. The morphology of Akshara. The term Akshara refers to that which is unchanging or that which pervades. It may be formed from two etymological roots. The first derives the term from the verb ksarati, meaning to lessen or become diminished. And a is affixed to the verbal form to indicate negation, and hence render the term to express that which persists or does not diminish. Akshara may also be derived from the verb asnuti, which means to pervade. Both derivations are well accepted within darshanic expositions and even mentioned in authoritative grammatical treatises such as Patanjali's Mahabhasya. Akshara refers to Akshara Brahman. Akshara Brahman is understood as unchanging since it is eternal in form and nature and uninfluenced by Maya. In its Siddhakasha form, Akshara Brahman is also understood to pervade Prakriti and its creation to infinite worlds, Brahmamandas. By expressing both semantics of Akshara described above, Akshara may appropriately refer to Akshara Brahman. Despite this identification, some may propose that Akshara refers to entities other than Akshara Brahman. For instance, since all Chaitanya, sentient entities, such as Jivatmans, are eternal and hence in some sense unchanging, and pervade their receptive bodies, which their cognitive faculties, Akshara may also be used to refer to them. Furthermore, Akshara, in other Upanishadic instances, albeit sparingly, refers to Prakriti, and, as a result, Prakriti may also be referenced in the above mantra. Regardless of these objections, within the context of the revelation in which it appears, Akshara can only refer to Akshara Brahman. Mukunda Upanishad 1-1-6's use of Akshara cannot refer to the Jivatmans or the Ishvaratmans, since subsequent mantras describe Akshara as the cause of all beings and the cause of creation. The Upanishad also describes Akshara as lustrous, subtler than the subtle, and in whom the realms and their dwellers reside. These and other descriptions of Akshara provided by subsequent mantras of the Mundaka Upanishad cannot characterize the Jivatmans or Ishvaratmans, who cause neither creation nor other beings, and who do not uphold others within themselves, nor serve as the support of various realms. These characteristics also are not of the Akshar Muktas, the liberated Jivatmans or Ishvaratmans. For these reasons, Akshara cannot refer to the Jivatmans or the Ishvaratman, even in their liberated states. Akshara also cannot refer to Prakriti, since the Upanishad later describes Akshara as omniscient, possessing knowledge, moving, breathing, and even blinking, all characteristics of a sentient, Chaitana being. Since Prakriti is understood to be inanimate, insentient, Mundaka Upanishad's use of Akshara does not refer to Prakriti. The term also does not refer to Paramatman, the supreme entity, since it would contradict the Upanishad's later affirmation of there being something that is superior to the superior Akshara. Since Paramatman is the supreme entity, there is nothing superior to it. For these reasons, the Mundaka Upanishad's use of Akshara does not refer to the Jivatmans, Ishvaratmans, Akshara Muktas, Prakriti, or Paramatman. Akshara used here refers only to the ontologically distinct entity, Akshara Brahman, who is inferior only to Paramatman, and controls and pervades all else, the Jivas, Ishvaras, and Maya Prakriti. According to this mantra, Paravidya is therefore that by which one comes to realize Akshara Brahman. In terms of the tradition, it is a vidya by which a spiritual aspirant becomes Brahmarupa, attains a state like that of Akshara Brahman. It, Akshara, is imperceptible by the senses, unattainable by worldly organs, without a worldly lineage, colorless, and without eyes, ears, hands, feet, etc. It is eternal, powerful, all-pervading, subtler than the subtle, unchanging, and the cause of all beings. It is what the Brahma-rupa realize. Exposition: the nature and form of Akshara. The Upanishad begins its description of Akshara by describing its form, distinct qualities, and glory. According to the Akshara Purusottama Darshana, Akshara Brahman has 4 forms, Svarupa. 1. The Chidakasha form, Svarupa, which pervades and upholds all things. 2. The Dhammasvarupa, which exists as Akshara Brahman, Parabrahman's divine abode. 3. The Shivaka which possesses human-like form and resides within Aksharadaman in eternal service of Parabrahman. And 4. The Pragatasvarupa, which resides on earth and serves as the vessel through which Parabrahman continues to remain manifest on earth. The above mantra presents several qualifiers to describe Akshara. What follows is an elaboration of each qualifier that is mentioned and how it expresses various features of Akshara. The above mantra describes Akshara in all of its 4 forms as imperceptible to the eye, adresya, imperceptible or intangible by any worldly sense organ. Akshara Brahman's Chidakasha form, Svarupa, has no bodily form and thus by nature remains imperceptible. Although Akshara Brahman as the divine abode of Paramatman and as the Parabrahman's personal attendant within that abode may be perceivable because they have form, even these forms of Akshara Brahman remain unperceived by bound Atmans, who have not become Brahma-rupa. Such Atmans lack the divine vision needed to perceive the divine form of Akshara Brahman. The 4th form of Akshara Brahman that manifests within the world as the Brahmasvarupa Guru also remains unrealized by those with malicious or impure intent. All forms of Akshara Brahman remain imperceptible to the unenlightened. Akshara also cannot be perceived or described by any worldly faculty of action, such as speech and others, or even comprehended by the cognitive faculties, such as the mind. It is agrahya because of the divine nature of Akshara and the worldly origin of these faculties. Akshara remains beyond the reach of all worldly faculties, whether they are of the senses, actions, or even cognition. The mantra continues by revealing that Akshara possesses no family lineage. It is Agotra. Akshara's form, it is Chidakasha, Paramatman, divine abode, and the personal attendant in that abode are all understood as eternal, and as a result by nature without lineage. His form as the Brahmasvarupa Guru, however, is born in the world, and possesses familial lineage. Nevertheless, since this form is divine and beyond the influence of Maya, it is considered to be free of worldly bonds, which include those of family. Therefore, even though this form of Akshara is born into the world, it remains essentially Agotra. Akshara is also described as being devoid of color, avarna. Akshara's Chidakasha Svarupa, as before, is by nature without color, since it is formless. Although Akshara, as Paramatman's divine abode, the personal attendant in that abode, and as the Guru, do possess color, it is not of this world, but it is divine. For this reason, all forms of Akshara are revealed as avarna, without worldly color. The Upanishad continues by describing Akshara as without eyes, ears, achakshusrota, hands or feet, apanipada. Like above, Akshara's Chidakasha form, Svarupa, by nature, is without bodily form and does not possess sense organs or faculties of action. With regards to Akshara's other 3 forms, Achakshusrotra and Apanipada are read to describe Akshara as without worldly eyes, ears, hands, or feet. The Upanishad thereafter describes Akshara as eternal, nitya, and hence beyond time. Akshara is also powerful, vibhu. Here, although the term vibhu is typically taken to mean pervading, this meaning is expressed later by the mantra's use of sarvagata. As a result, vibhu expresses possessing grandeur ability, its alternative meaning. Akshara in its Chidakasha form pervades all things, sarvagata, both the animate and inanimate, with the exception of Parabrahman. This pervasive form is referred to as Akshara's Anvaya form. Akshara is also identified as subtler than the subtle, Sushukshma. This characteristic is described within the tradition by the term Nirguna. Akshara's Nirguna form is extensively described by Bhagavan Swaminarayan in VGM 42. By being subtle, Akshara is also extremely difficult to realize. Akshara is unchanging, avyaya, by being eternal and uninfluenced by Maya or Prakriti. Akshara remains forever unchanging. Akshara is also identified as the cause of all beings, Bhutayoni. Further elaboration on the precise nature of the causal relationship is provided later in this work. Although Akshara is eternally the cause of all things, its causality is subject to Paramatman's wishes. The mantra concludes by revealing that this divine glory of Akshara is realized completely by those who 1. Are patient, 2. Have a pure intellect that is developed by associating with the Brahmasvarupa Guru, and 3. Are engrossed in Paramatman. As a spider creates and swallows back its silken threads, as herbs and plants grow forth from the earth, and as hair grows on a person, in the same way this world is created from Akshara. Exposition. Having described Akshara as the cause of all beings, Bhutayoni, in the previous mantra, the Upanishad continues to elaborate on Akshara's role as the cause of creation by presenting three analogies of creation. The first analogy compares Akshara to a spider. It explains that Akshara produces this world just as a spider produces silk from its body, traverses on top of it, and thereafter swallows the silk it produced. The analogy describes Akshara as the unchanging cause of creation. Unlike how milk transforms into curd or yogurt, Akshara remains unaffected by its creation. Akshara may even enter within it and remain unchanged by it. The second analogy compares Akshara to the earth. It states that the world emerges from Akshara just as a variety of plants and herbs are produced from the earth according to the seeds that are found within it. The analogy explains that just as the earth is impartial to and irreprehensible of the type of plant that comes forth from the seed that lies within it, Akshara, like Paramatman, remains unbiased and irreprovable despite the diversity of creation that results from it. The final analogy compares Akshara to a person. It elaborates that Akshara produces animate and inanimate creation, just as a person produces hair and nails without any effort. The analogy emphasizes that the act of creation is effortless from Akshara. As with Paramatman, Akshara needs to only resolve or desire for creation to occur. Through each analogy, the Upanishad expresses a unique feature of Akshara Brahman's role in creation. The process of creation. The commentator takes this opportunity to provide a brief exposition of the creation process. He explains that the process of creation begins with Paramatman, with a desire to create the world. Paramatman looks toward Akshara Brahman. Akshara Brahman understands Paramatman's wishes and resolves to create the world accordingly. Akshara Brahman thereafter looks upon the infinite Akshara Muktas in Akshara Daman. Among them, one mukta is selected, who then unites with Mula Prakriti, Mula Maya. Prior to this unification, Mula Prakriti exists in a state of equilibrium. The three qualities, gunas, Sattva guna, that which is light and bright, Rajoguna, that which is exciting and mobile, and Tamaguna, that which is heavy and enveloping, are in equal proportion. In the presence of an Akshara Mukta, however, this equilibrium becomes disrupted, resulting in the creation of the world. When an Akshara Mukta or Purusha unites with Prakriti, this joined pair is referred to as Prakriti Purusha. In association with a Purusha, Prakriti forgoes its state of equilibrium and results in infinite pradhanas. Each of these pradhanas, in turn, unites with an Ishvaratman. Prior to creation, these Ishvaratmans, who are eternally distinct from the Jivatmans, lie dormant in the womb of Maya. From the union of Mula Prakriti and Mukta Purusha, infinite Pradhana Purusha pairs are produced. Thereafter, from each Pradhana Purusha pair, a Brahmanda is formed. From countless such Pradhana Purusha pairs, countless Brahmandas are created. The creation process then proceeds within each Brahmanda. From each Pradhana Purusha, Mahatattva is formed. From Mahatattva, three types of Ahankara, Sattvika Ahankara, Rajasa Ahankara, and Tamasa Ahankara are created. From Sattvika Ahankara, the mind, Manas, and the deities of all the senses, Indriyas, are produced. From Rajasa Ahankara, the 10 Indriyas, the intellect, Buddhi, and the vital forces, Pranas, are produced. From Tamasa Ahankara, the 5 gross elements, Bhuta, such as earth and water, and the 5 subtle elements, Tanmatras, such as sound, smell, and taste, are produced. From these substances, the physical body of Virata is created. By Paramatman's will, an Ishvara thereafter enters the Virata body as its governor. That Ishvara Purusha is identified as Vairaja Purusha. From that Vairaja Purusha, 3 distinct deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha, are born. These 3 are identified as separate sentient beings, Chaitanyas. Brahma arises from Vairaja Purusha's navel, Vishnu comes forth from his heart, and Mahesha is born from his forehead. From Brahma, Prajapatis such as Marichi and others are born. They are then followed by Prajapatis, including Kasyapa and others. Finally, all of animate and inanimate creation, including deities such as Indra, the demons, Danava, humans, animals, birds, and others are born. Creation within each Brahmanda occurs in this way. Purushottama Narayana Sahajanana, who is superior to even Akshara, pervades within and inspires all creation. By Purushottama's wish, Akshara Brahman is also identified as the creator. Akshara's role as the creator is explicitly expressed within this mantra. According to Paramatman's wishes, Akshara Brahman resolves to create the world. From that resolve, Mula Prakriti becomes ready for creation. From Mula Prakriti, the prana, Antakarana, Jivas, Ishvaras, various lokas, and the fruits of karmas are born. Exposition. The Upanishad continues to describe Akshara's role in creating the world. Although Akshara's resolve results in the process of creation, the above mantra expresses that the resolve is ultimately inspired by Paramatman's wish to instigate creation. The mantra uses the term tapas to express resolve. This cognitive rendering of tapas is suggested by the preceding mantra's revelation, Yasya Jnanamayam Tapa. By describing tapas as jnanamaya, of the form of knowledge, the mantra implies that tapas, in the present context, refers to a type of understanding or resolve. Specifically, it is to be read as Paramatman's resolve. Upanishadic revelations such as Bhashyam, Prajayaya, and others clarify that the resolve to create is none other than Paramatman's own. Brahman, another name of Akshara. This mantra also indicates that Brahman is used to refer to Akshara, since the principal topic of discussion, as suggested by previous elaborations, is Akshara. By referring to Akshara by Brahman, both Brahman and Akshara and their joint compound are understood to be used synonymously. The synonymy is further substantiated by the Upanishad's later revelations. For instance, the Upanishad later mentions Taketad Aksharam Brahma to suggest the same identification. Other Upanishads also use similar phraseologies as indicated by Etadhyagsaram Brahma and Ya Saturijnanam Aksharam Brahma Yat Param to suggest the same. Within the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's response, Aksharam Brahma Paramam, to Arjuna's question, what is that Brahman, also supports the identification. This mantra reveals that Akshara's resolve for creation results in Mula Prakriti becoming ready for creation. Here the term Anna, meaning that which is eaten or enjoyed, is used to refer to Mula Prakriti. This identification is founded on the metaphysical nature of the relationship between the Mukta Purusha involved in creation and Mula Prakriti. Since a Mukta Purusha, according to the wishes of both Akshara and Purusattama, unites with or metaphorically enjoys Mula Prakriti for the purpose of creation, Mula Prakriti is identified as Anna, that which is enjoyed or consumed. By its association with the Purusha, this Prakriti foregoes its state of equilibrium and becomes imbalanced. This disrupted state lays the foundation for creation and ultimately results in the creation of Pradhana Purushas, Mahatattva, and others. From these creations, the prana, manas, satya, various other worlds, lokas, and other beings are created, and their karmas are brought to bear fruit. Since the mantra is intended to reveal Akshara Brahman as a cause of creation, it does not dwell excessively on the details of creation. It only highlights specific aspects, leaving the rest to be presumed or implied. Prana refers to the primary vital breath, and manas refers to the faculties of cognition. Antakarana. Satya denotes the Chaitanya of the Jivas and Ishvaras, since they exist eternally even after destruction, Pralaya. These Jivas and Ishvaras are born as deities, Devas, humans, and other beings. Lokas refer to the various realms that constitute each world, Brahmananda. In addition to the above, various codes of conduct of each social class, varna, and stage of life, ashrama, are also specified during creation. Based on one's adherence to or transgressions of these precepts, the fruits of one's actions, karmas, are bestowed. One who knows all, whose tapas is in the form of knowledge itself, and not the merits or fruits that result from it. That Akshara Brahman gives rise to the names, forms, and subsistence of creation. Exposition: Akshara Brahman's omniscience. Being the all-doer and being all-knowing, omniscient, are not independent qualities. All-doership entails omniscience. Having described Akshara Brahman as the all-doer, the Upanishad continues to describe him as also omniscient. As omniscient, Akshara Brahman knows all things, in every manner and at all times. Its tapas, effort, is cognitive, and in the form of resolve. The role of this resolve in creation was elaborated earlier. Inspired by Paramatman's wishes, Akshara Brahman's resolve is sufficient to instigate creation. By Paramatman's desire and Akshara Brahman's resolve, both Akshara and Purusattama pervade all things to cause creation. As a result, they both are the non-distinct abhina, not only efficient cause, nimitta karana, but also material cause, upadana karana, of creation. By pervading all creation, Akshara Brahman is said to become creation. He is its cause and controller. Here nama, names, rupam, forms, and ana, food, collectively refer to all creation. Akshara Brahman is identified as the Atman of all things. There is nothing that exists separately from it. Wherever creation is, Akshara Brahman is also. Akshara Brahman is also identified as the material cause, Upadana Karana, of creation. Its role as the material cause is also revealed later in the Mundaka Upanishad, in other Upanishads, and within the Bhagavad Gita. The second kanda, that Akshara is true. The actions described in the Vedic mantras were realized by the wise and were always appropriately practiced in the Treta Yuga. All of you should necessarily practice them while desiring only that which is true. This is your path towards Akshardhaman. Exposition: the transformation of karmas into karma yoga. The Upanishad explained earlier that Akshara is attained by Paravidya, and as a result should be realized. The second section, Kanda, commences by explaining how it should be realized. The Upanishad first reveals that actions, karmas, performed with the sole desire to please Akshara Purushotama lead towards attaining Paramatman's divine abode, Akshara Daman. Akshara, previously described as imperceptible and omniscient, is Satya, since, like Paramatman, he remains eternally unchanging in form and nature. In addition to identifying Akshara as Satya, Tadatat Satyam may also be read to affirm the truthfulness of what is being resolved. In this rendering, demonstrative adjectives tad and atat refer to what is recently said and what follows. Hence, Tadatat Satyam asserts that all revelation that preceded earlier and that proceeds hereafter is indeed true, Satya. Stated differently, the descriptions provided reveal eternal truths. There is no doubt about its truth. Within the Treta Yuga, actions, karmas, such as Agnihotra karma and others that are described in the four Vedas, were realized by the wise, Kavis, those, one, who realized Paravidya and Akshara Purushotama by associating with the Brahmasvarupa Guru, and two, were aware of the means to please Paramatman through their actions and practiced them throughout their lives. The Upanishad thereafter advises that all, like the wise Kavis, should become Satyakama, those who desire Kama, only Akshara Brahman and Parabrahman, who are Satya, and necessarily practice Vedic karmas to their fullest extent. Although the text records only Shanaka asking the question, the use of the plural sense in this mantra suggests that either there are many receivers of revelation or Angiras is collectively addressing all future aspirants. The Upanishad then reveals the significance of these actions, karmas, actions that are one, practiced while possessing firm conviction in Akshara Purushotama, two, performed with the sole desire to please Akshara Purushotama, and three, Bhakti Rupa, have become a form of devotion, bhakti. Angiras explains that such actions are your path or means to attaining Akshara-daman, Purushotama's divine abode, which is attained through the practice of Ekantika Dharma. Furthermore, actions, karmas, practiced with a desire to attain inferior or worldly gains result in mundane, transient, and inferior outcomes. The nature and consequence of these worldly actions will be elaborated upon later in this work. However, if those same actions are practiced by devotees with a desire to attain true conviction in Akshara Purushotama and the desire to only please them, then these actions become transformed into a form of devotion. As acts of devotion, they lead one towards Akshara-daman. The distinction between worldly actions and redeeming actions lies in their intent. Actions practiced to fulfill worldly desires are identified as shakama. Therefore, those performed to please Akshara Purushotama are Satyakama. By revealing that which redemptive actions should be necessarily niyatam practiced, the Upanishad rejects the position that exclusively advocates knowledge and denounces the performance of any action. After all, the complete renunciation of action, karma, is impossible, not to mention detrimental. When the ceremonial fire has been ignited with firewood and the flames flare high, offer the oblations between the two portions. Exposition. The Upanishad continues to describe the manner in which oblations in Vedic karmas, ceremonies, should be practiced. It explains that one should offer oblations in the midst of the two parts called Ajabhaga, when the ceremonial fire has been lit with ghee and firewood and its flames are tall. Some recite this mantra with the additional words, Sradhaya Hutam, after oblations with faith conviction. This rendering emphasizes that oblations should be accompanied with religious conviction. It is presumed that a failure to possess such conviction renders the offering as equivalent to not having offered it at all. 7 generations are destroyed of those who perform Agnihotra, 1 without Darshana, Parnamasama, Katurmasyama, Agrayana, and Vaishvadeva, 2 without honoring guests, 3 by offering oblations at an unsuitable time, 4 or inappropriately. Exposition. The Upanishad explains that if karmas performed on a particular occasion for the fulfillment of a wish or at ceremonies are practiced appropriately, but fail to adhere to other necessary rituals described in sacred texts, then it not only is as if they had not been performed at all, but also may lead to adverse results.